Hello, I'm Todd Hall, President and CEO of TrueLiant. As we mark our 70th anniversary in 2022, we reflect on a rich history that would not be possible without the support of the great city of Winston-Salem. From our humble beginnings in 1952 to the present, where we will soon serve over 300,000 members, hire our 1,000th employee, and exceed $4 billion in assets, to a future poised for continued growth. I am proud of the work we are doing together. TrueLiant is grateful for and remains committed to Winston-Salem and all of Forsyth County.
Welcome to the Greater Conversations podcast. I'm Deetra Miller, the Director of Member Relations and Engagement at Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. We'll use this platform to showcase our local businesses, our community, and their stories. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. It is my pleasure today to introduce you to Ben Schwab. He is a partner and architect at Stitch Design Shop based right here in Winston-Salem. Good morning, Ben. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Good morning, Deetra. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm really excited for people to get to know you a little bit better. We're in the city of arts and innovation, and architecture may not be the first thing on the minds of people when they think about that, but I want you to talk to us a little bit about how that ties in and why you chose Winston-Salem to be the home base for Stitch Design Shop. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about Ben. If I understand correctly, you're not originally from Winston-Salem.
That is correct. Yeah, I grew up in the Midwest, grew up in Iowa.
Wow.
So had spent a lot of summers detasseling. Wrestling is a big thing in the Midwest. It's definitely a stronghold for that as well. So grew up rural, small town, Iowa, 2,000 people in my hometown.
What?
So yeah, grew a very interesting experience. A great place to grow up. Great family, great friends. I think culturally it's a really interesting place too because there's a lot of small farms that are all around Iowa. So with that, it definitely is very much about helping your neighbor, being a community and how you work together. And that is something that I just, growing up, it's just how it was, but have come to appreciate now that I've left. And when I go back to see that strength and, helping harvest and all of the work that was needed in order to do that, just how everybody came together and have done that. So that's definitely something that, as I continue to learn more about myself, I figured that was a pretty important part of my upbringing and values that was instilled by my parents and community there.
So all that being said, congratulations on escaping.
Yeah, absolutely.
to the metropolis that is Winston-Salem.
That's right.
Well, there's so much to love about Winston-Salem that is congruent to the things that you said, right? The sense of community and working together, right? Is that what drew you to Winston-Salem?
I think actually I was in graduate school at University of Colorado. So grew up in Iowa, loved it, went to Iowa State University, left, went to the mountains, fly fishing, skiing, doing all those things, and then went to graduate school in Denver, met one of my business partners there. So that was part of the journey of ultimately landing here, was meeting Pete Falla. So we were in graduate school together down in Denver, fishing buddies, had a lot of alignment in a lot of different ways. So his wife was originally from Greensboro. He's from West Virginia. So he had landed in Winston-Salem, I think it was about 6-7 years before I came here.
Okay.
So then I didn't know much about Winston-Salem. I think I had seen the Madhouse show I think it was on History Channel. I think that was my only reference to Winston-Salem. So I saw that and I'm like, what is going, this is wild. This is different than definitely where I'm from. So that was how I knew Winston, had friends in the area in Raleigh and Charlotte. So spent some time here and a lot of, after a few visits and ended up coming here essentially because of Pete, looking at opportunities. So we both worked together here. And then my other partner, Adam Sebastian, grew up in Louisville, went to NC State. So he out of us is definitely the local representative for Stitch. So that, all of that happened, I guess we started Stitch in 2013 and landed in Winston-Salem. And at the time, that was my draw, was a personal connection. Didn't have much of a connection otherwise with Winston. Had always been very fond of North Carolina, just what I understood of it. And Frank Harmon is living in Colorado for a while, as far as famous architect here based in North Carolina, has a lot of, he's been involved in the NC State system, definitely a godfather of design, I would say, in North Carolina and beyond. So that's how I was familiar with North Carolina. And then after spending a year here, it pretty quickly came to understand it in a lot more depth. And yeah, it's home for me. It's been home for me for a long time now, but it's definitely home for me. And that I have a 4.5-year-old, Arlo is his name, and now that with him being born and of North Carolina, I feel like was the next transition for me to feel comfortable. Like, okay, I'm a North Carolinian now. Yeah,
that's awesome. Arlo, I love that name.
Thank you.
I love that. Well, I'm curious to know, growing up in Iowa in a rural community, what was it that developed your love of design and architecture?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think kind of twofold. There's the architecture piece, and then my father, when he was 25, with a partner, purchased a local grocery store, so a rural community. So that was something I grew up with, that I knew, my father being a part of that. And then he had purchased the store from his partner maybe 5 years into that relationship. So it was something that just was ingrained. I don't know that it was talked a whole lot about growing up, but something that inherently at some point I recognized, this is really important to me. I want to be a part of something that is mine and in some capacity, but also not wanting that to be an individual effort, the excitement of working with a group of people. So that, along with architecture, I think architecture, my path to that, I went to undergrad in community and regional planning, which is a lot of design, looking at it from a neighborhood, looking at it from a city perspective, some of that policy, how that affects design and development, and then going into architecture. But, I was always interested in furniture making, furniture design, had done those pieces growing up, didn't realize that connection. Maybe that's partly what brought me here to North Carolina as well.
Yes.
But yeah, that was something that I think, just the idea of making and being a part of a process, it's really rewarding, and there's a lot of pride in being able to work with folks and collectively creating that vision, and then how that comes together. And I think it never gets old. It's incredible when family and friends will get a text on a weekend or a weekday night. It's like, hey, we were just here at Bailey Park. We were just here at Artivity on the Green.
Yes.
We were having an amazing time, and it's alive, and, sending pictures, and that's incredibly rewarding and just feels so good, and is a big driver. So it's hard to pinpoint the exact moment or what drew me to architecture, but in that planning background, definitely interested in how cities are developed, how they come together. And it felt like architecture was a good pairing to that in order to be able to take next steps in my career. So I was a land use planner for 5 years in Colorado prior to going to graduate school at University of Colorado.
Okay. Well, number one, congratulations on 10 years this year. That's fantastic. And you talked about the team that you have here and working together, not doing a solo thing. And one thing that was really interesting in the brief that we shared before the podcast, you mentioned that there's progress in the process, and with clarity, creativity, and confidence through every stage, every project, our process is built to breed progress. How does your team work together with your clients to actually do that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important for us. There's a high value in design of the projects. How are we able to work with our clients to create a clear vision, provide that clarity of what their needs are? Often They may come to us with a brief or come to us with an idea of what they want or how potentially an issue in terms of need for space. Maybe it's a culture piece that they're working on. How do we work with them, and then how do we truly understand them? How do we understand their business? So it's been really important for us to pair that design thinking with a process. So how do we develop a process that can take that client that there's clarity? We can really quickly, in say, it depends on the project, but in a month, work with them, work with their team to really vet out, to understand what those boundaries are. There may be in that brief that they provide some needs and some wants and also some current challenges. So how do we better understand that? We work with them in a number of ways to help provide that clarity. And that's a way we've found for Stitch to be very successful in a way of that we can look at different options. We can look at iterations of possibilities really quickly with a low level of risk. It's something we can work through quickly, and we can share ideas. And if they've come to us with a specific charge that, I need this much square foot, I want it to fit here, it might look like this, provide that option, and also look at a couple other options too, along with that side by side. And then through that clarity process, we can provide, hey, we learned some other pieces that are adjacent to what you've wanted. This other option over here does what you've asked, what you've said here, but it also could meet these other priorities as well. So that progress and process is really important as we think about design plus process. The 1 + 1 = 3. How can we increase that? How do we not make it painful to work with an architect, to work with a designer? That can be really challenging. We continue to learn our past experiences, current experiences, working with the architect, working with the designer. We are working with the client to figure out how to address their needs and how to best deploy that. And of course, there's budget, there's a schedule, there's space needs with that too. So in doing that, how do we create a collective vision with them? And then that implementation becomes a lot more comfortable. It's a place that they're able to speak into that along every step of the way, and that we don't show up to a meeting or show up and say, hey, look at what we did. This is great, isn't it? Don't you love this? And that's a really uncomfortable place for anybody to be in, to do that. So how do we really create that clarity, create that vision? For us, we work in a lot of different areas, a lot of different venues as far as project types. So 80% of the work that we do is call commercial. So that commercial would be new construction, a lot of adaptive reuse, Bailey South down here. Linville team was a really early example of that office. And that project, Linville team, Aubrey and Coleman, took a big chance on us. We were fresh, very new at that point in time, and being able to work with them to help develop and clarify their vision and then implement that. And I know from feedback we've gotten from them over the years of the importance of that office for them, and that was such a critical project for us too. So early on, somebody had said to us that the best way to establish your business of who you are and what your values are, employ that in the first project or two. Like everything, we're putting everything into every project that we work on, but that first year, that first 2 years is really going to set the stage in terms of how you're viewed, what opportunities, what possibilities there are. So Linville team office was one of those. Bailey Park was a very weird, it was in Pete's basement was our first office that we were working. His daughter Ollie would come down and give us coffee and sleep on the couch that was right next to the desk. And then we moved to an office just up on Trade Street. After that, it was Linville team as they were finishing up the office up above. We were in that office down below. So it definitely was a really formative time, really exciting time. But I think with that also helped us realize how important it is to continue to develop those connections and that network and community community in a design perspective, community in a real estate perspective, and in so many different ways. So our team now, we're a team of architects, interior designers. So we have a robust interior design team. That's something that we originally, our company was founded by 3 architects. Pete is a licensed interior designer as well, but his lean toward architecture. So we realized as we were working on a lot of different projects, working with consultants, that for us to really holistically approach these projects, approach this design, that having interior design internal was incredibly important to continue to evolve and develop who we want to become. So Taylor Ghost is our director of interior design. She's been leading the charge, and her and her team done an incredible job. And it's been really great to see, as you have some ideas and some thoughts of this is what we need, this is a direction, and to see the advancement and the development that's occurred there over the last few years has been really awesome, and a lot of pride in that.
So congratulations again on the 10 years.
Yeah.
Who was Stitch's first client?
Yeah, that's a great question. Stuart Parks with Arden Group was our first client. So I was down in I'm trying to think of the name. It was a car wash down in Charlotte. I was seeing a friend. I want to say it's like Autobell. I don't know if that's I was in the car wash, got a call Saturday afternoon. I had reached out to everybody I knew. It was like, hey, we're starting our company, Stitch. This is what we do, and let us know if you need any help. We'd love to. So he called on a Saturday. It's like, all right, what can you meet tomorrow? Like, yes, absolutely, no problem. Clear the schedule. So then we ran down here, met with Stuart in his office on a Sunday afternoon, and it was on working with him on some master planning, on some conceptual development for a project down in Charlotte. So that was a great, really fun project to work closely hand in hand with Stuart, Justin Gibbert, Paul Williams, with their team. So yeah, looking back, it was, I think it's definitely overused, but there's a lot of insecurity starting your own firm. And as you do that, and it does struggle for a while with imposter syndrome and feeling like, wow, how do we make this work? So that it's a continual growth, continual path in doing that.
Awesome.
I love that. You mentioned that 80% of your client base is commercial, but you do residential as well. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 20% of our work that we do primarily is modern residential. And Stitch, not everything we design is a modern piece of architecture. I would say our philosophy and how we approach design is informed by modernist principles, thinking about context and thinking about sustainability, of thinking about all the different factors that are impacting a space. So how we look at that, how we deploy that really informs all of our work. So Adam, Sebastian, one of the 3 partners at Stitch, Pete Falla and myself, Adam had built his own house. It's called the Whole One Residence. So it's not part of Salem Glen, but there was a little out parcel. So he designed a modern house I'm going to get this wrong now. The years are starting to roll together, but I want to say it was right around 2000, late 2008, somewhere in there. Let's say that's the case. I'll need to confirm this later, but right around there. So he designed and built his own modern house, and really locally became, established himself as an expert in that, was involved with NC Modernist, George Smart and his team, great organization that really supports modern design. They are residential, focused on single family residential. So not only new modern design, but also preserving the history of modern design in North Carolina. North Carolina has the 3rd highest number of modern residential homes in the nation.
Wow.
I think it's New York and then Illinois, with predominance of Chicago.
Who would have thought?
Right around there. Yeah,
Really?
NC State, because of the
Okay.
the powerhouse that it has been in architecture, so many different professors, and that has really inspired and created a lot of opportunities for modern design. But yes, not something that I didn't know that before, probably at that point 2010, for NC Modernists had really highlighted that Mayberry Modernism that was one of our early programs that we did as far as community outreach. NC Modernists, George Smart came to the garage. Tucker worked with us to get that set up. So George Smart did his presentation there. So yeah, it's always been something that's been really important to Stitch. Early on, Adams House happened, and then West Salem Modern is a project that we worked on in West Salem. So that was a partner.
I really like those houses.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we partnered with Kelly and Jeff Sowers to trying to figure out how to make that work, both from a development side. Pete got his general contractor's license, so we're the part of the development team, general contractor, architect,
Wow.
interior designer. And then, there were 5 new houses that were already developed, already assigned lots. So those lots had been created with, trying to remember the name of it at this point, but it's a neighborhood in West Salem. I can't remember the name of the original development, but 1920s. So there were 2 houses that the team collectively worked on to restore that are still there, that are great assets for that neighborhood.
Wow.
And then built 5 moderns there as well. I lived in one, Pete lived in another one. So that was a really formative project for us. We learned so much. That was an early phase project.
That's on the corner of Montgomery and
In Granville.
Granville, yeah.
Yep, it is. Yeah, so some of the 3 of the houses face Holland right there.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Granville, our house was on the corner. So that was a really exciting project, and I think very formative in the way that as Adam had designed and learned with his own house, doing that for myself, Pete doing that with his family, and then Pete has recently completed a renovation of a mid-century modern. That was one we'd mentioned was featured in our state. Yeah, so him, Tracy, and Ollie, his wife Tracy, his daughter Ollie, live there. So that was a project that we all went and looked at it, trying to decide what made sense. Pete, had a vision for it, and it's an incredible place, an incredible house. So our residential, single-family residential work, I'd say, is primarily in the triad. It is a little bit outside of that as it expands, and we probably do anywhere from 5 to 8 single-family residences a year, I would say, somewhere in that range. So it's been a great. We do have separate studios within Stitch. So Michael Clapp does run our architectural, single-family residential, and small projects as well. And then we have interior design as well that's really focused. A couple interior designers, Veronica, in our office is focused on the interior design part, along with assistance from others.
That is awesome. That is awesome. If anyone is listening right now and you're close to your device, just go to their website at stitchdesignshop.com and take a look at some of the amazing work they've done over the years. I'm curious to know what is on the horizon for Stitch.
Yeah, absolutely. No, great question. For us, we're definitely have grown up in Winston-Salem. 10 years in August. Last year, we opened an office in Greensboro, which has been great. So that really increasing our representation in the triad. For us, we love the triad. Triad is home.
Shout out to Mr. Zimmerman over there
Absolutely.
and Transform GSO, where your new home is there.
Absolutely. So Andy's been great. We've known him for a long time, has been a supporter. And then I think for us, North Carolina, it's amazing of all the great work that is going on in the design world. It does feel unique in a way of there's a lot of young upstart firms, I would say similar in age and size to Stitch. the majority of those being in the Triangle, but not all of them there. And I would say in the Southeast in general, there's there's a lot of great work, and we're inspired by our peers that are doing great work. We're inspired by one another. So that North Carolina is. I didn't find this place by accident. It all happened for a reason. And now when I'm here, just seeing all the incredible opportunities that are ahead. And so for us, I think continuing to build our team, develop our team, architects, interior designers, think of how we look. Or when we started Stitch, our core tenet was finding a better way.
Yes.
To how do we continue to evolve and progress? How do we never saying to one another, you're like, well, it's just how we do it, or that's the way, but being curious and challenging one another and asking those questions about if there are pinch points or tension, how do we respond as an industry? There was a lot of amazing, really disruptive things happening in the architectural and the building industry, and that has been an industry kind of oddly that has been stagnant for a long time, that for as far as technology and others hasn't kept up with what other industries have. So how do we respond to that? Us of growing, being an upstart firm, how do we compete in terms of projects that are exciting for us, that we can make a big impact and a big value? We're not doing it opposite, but there's a lot of large firms coming in and buying local firms now, and being represented in those communities in that way. But how do we continue to lead locally in every community that we are doing that through, continue to be involved in different community organizations, scholarships, mentoring, so many different ways to do that. That is really important for us. That's how we understand our community. That's how we better ingrained within our community. So how does Stitch continue to evolve and develop in North Carolina to be able to continue to build our expertise? And then we have a lot of great partners as well, consultants and teams. So Ratio, we're like Clydium's right next door from where we're at. So we partnered with Gensler at their Raleigh office, and then Ratio, as I said, Roto, I'm sorry, I said Ratio, but it's Roto, but so they're based out of Ohio. So for them, they were the exhibit designer. We've worked on a lot of different great projects with them, and just finding the right pieces, the right partners as we continue to develop to do great work.
I love that. I can't wait to see what the next 10 years holds. Again, you guys do great work, and you don't have to look far around you in Winston-Salem to see the footprint you guys have. So I'm excited about that. I want to ask you, because of where we're located, there must be something you love to do here, especially with Arlo.
Yeah.
What's one of the favorite things that you like to do with Arlo and Winston?
Yeah, we love Winston for a lot of different reasons. I think the size has been really nice. It does feel like a small town, but then with it being a mid-sized city, you do have access to a lot of other things. And we've got Greensboro to be able to fly out of. We've got Charlotte, we've got Raleigh as well. So those in close proximity, there's easy access to a lot of different things. And I think the mountains and the ocean, of course, that I think most of us that live here, that is something that keeps us here. So as we, go to the mountains and with Arlo, with Lindsay, my wife, as we, go spend time there, we hike. I'm a fly fisherman as well, so that's something that I'm slowly kind of introducing Arlo to, hoping we'll see where that goes in the future, but something that is definitely near and dear to me. And then cycling is another thing that I really enjoy, that Arlo, as far as where, his development is at, really enjoys something that we can do together. The three of us can get on our bikes and go ride to buoys, or go spend some time, come down here to the coal pit behind Bailey Power Plant, and he can have a great time. And so there's just so many different opportunities. I think one of looking at it in comparison to where I grew up and what that looked like, we had good friends. Their daughter just accepted into School of the Arts, into their high school program, percussion. So kudos to Caroline. Pretty incredible. But just having access to those incredible institutions that are here is a thing that continues to get me really excited. And I think collectively the community of Winston, there's definitely a recognition of the past and understanding that, and that is important. And that is really important to understand as where we're heading. And then in addition to that, not working to recreating that. And what is Winston-Salem look like, whatever 0.0 that this is, how does Winston-Salem continue to be a place that we're all excited to live in, that we're proud of? And, the pieces and parts definitely feel like they're here. I feel that. That's, one of the reasons why we decided to start our business here. So that's just really exciting as we look forward. I think a huge reason, massive reason for the success of Stitch to date has been all of the people that have supported us every step of the way.
Yes.
Very early on, Robert Eggleston with Datamax and Datamax Foundation, he connected us with so many people when we had an idea of what we were trying to do, but it wasn't by no means fully formed, still figuring it out, connected us, had sponsored so many conversations that helped us inform where we were going and what we were doing. And that's, there are so many people in addition to Robert that have helped us along the way, fabricators that we work with to be able to execute a lot of the work that we do, Viator Construction, Sunnyside Millwork. Those are in the design process, early phase collaborators with us. Mm-hmm. We work with a lot of general contractors as well. So in order to execute, you can have an idea, you can have a thought, but if we can't pull it off, if it doesn't meet budget, then it's ultimately of little value from our perspective. So how do we create that clarity, create that vision with the client? And then it's, on us with our team to figure out how to execute that and pull that off. So all of these projects, involve anywhere from, tens to hundreds to thousands of people that are touching it, that are involved with it. So that having that clarity, I think in terms of design, having that in the execution in the documents, that everybody understands where they're going and why they're doing it, and being able to fill in the blanks with that because there is clarity in that vision has been something that's been really important for us.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much for what you do, filling in the blanks, creating collaborative opportunities for so many businesses based right here, and making Winston-Salem a more beautiful place. I love that. And the triad now that you guys are in Greensboro as well. So thank you for that. Thank you for taking the time to be here. For everyone listening, tell them how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, you can find us online. StitchDesignShop.com is our website. And then through there, you'll be able to link in with our emails. We are on Instagram. If you search Stitch Design Shop, you'll find that. LinkedIn as well. We have a monthly newsletter. You can hit us up, go to the website, subscribe, find us. My email is ben@stitchdesignshop.com as well. And
Perfect.
It's been great. Thanks for inviting me, Deetra.
Thanks
for all that
welcome.
you do. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And we'll have you back again.
Absolutely.
All right.
Greater Winston-Salem, I think being involved in a few different ways with your organization, of just the leadership and the drive that what's happening here, and what businesses we're attracting, the clarity and understanding who we are and where we're going, of what that is, where that's been established, where the direction that's heading is so important to the success of Winston-Salem. So thanks to you and
Thank
all the
you.
team.
Thank you for saying that. That means a lot to our team. It really does.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, for everyone listening, until next time. We know you enjoyed this podcast today, so join us for the next episode of Greater Conversations. By the way, you can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Be sure to smash that subscribe button. Also, be sure to visit our website at winstonsalem.com. The views views and opinions stated in this podcast are solely those of the contributors and not necessarily those of our sponsors, distributors, or hosting companies. This podcast is copyrighted and cannot be reproduced without expressed written consent of Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. or your toast.